I think reading Torah is a very good exercise of approaching difficulties in life. Because when you read passages like this, you need to find a way to harmonize, to be in peace with what you're reading, one way or the other. The same happens, I think, with this world that we are living in. If there is anything positive about this world, is that people know geography a bit better. And people no longer confuse Russia with Ukraine, for example. And they know some cities' names now quite well. And when they say now where their ancestors from, they most likely say Ukraine and Belarus than Russia, because that's where most people are from. And well, in any case, and people also know some of the fact that Gaza Strip contains more than one city, and it's quite large, and so on. So, well, in my case, in my personal case, I knew the geography of both places because I visited both places, and it was both visits were connected with somehow connected with the World Union for Progressive Judaism, which is the organization that happens to be established in this synagogue. I have very, very warm feelings toward this organization, this union. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, the WUPJ played an essential role of reviving the Jewish life in the countries like Ukraine, Russia, and Belarus. Although I was too young to remember the early years of the post-Soviet World Union, I was fortunate enough to benefit from the groundwork laid by those who took first steps of community building. So with the World Union's support, I had a wonderful small community. I had a chance of participating in a wonderful small community in Chelyabinsk that's called Chava Nagila, which means let's have joy, let's enjoy our lives. And I was able to explore my Jewish heritage there, and eventually became a rabbi because of the connection, because of the twinning project that the World Union organized, in our case between my community in Chelyabinsk and the Manchester Menorah Synagogue. And this is where I started to think seriously about becoming rabbi. And to my surprise, many years later, after my rabbinic training, I discovered that the LJS, the community I serve today, was not only the founding community of the liberal movement here, but also the founding community of the World Union for Progressive Judaism. For me, it was like coming back the full circle. And I was very moved when I learned that. So today, when the Jewish world and the world in general are going through a very difficult period and uncertainty, wars and many crises, I think that the legacy of those giants who stood before us is very important for us, because after all, people who served this community and the leaders of the World Union and other communities lived through difficult times. The World Union was established in 1926. It means that the leaders of that organization and the rabbis of this community lived through quite a few wars. And therefore, we can, I think, look back and learn what they thought at difficult times. So here's a photograph made in London. And I think it was made shortly after the presidential address given by Rabbi Dr. Leo Back. He's on the right on this. After the 5th International Conference of the World Union for Progressive Judaism on Sunday, the 22nd 28th of July, 1946. So shortly after the Second World War. And the Rabbi Leo Beck gave the address, and the title of that address is The Task of Progressive Judaism in the Post-War World. And here's just a few paragraphs from that long address. And also, please remember, in the past, people gave much longer speeches and sermons. So, and I had to cut quite a lot from it. So it's just 4 paragraphs, which for now, for us, seems a bit long, but it is just a few essential ideas there. So since the last conference of our World Union, which was pre-war, a terrible ordeal has swept over the Jewish people and over humanity, and we must never forget what we have lost and whom we have lost. We must conserve these emotions within us, lest we forget. Furthermore, on a new soil, new seed was sown to ripen towards days of harvest. In South Africa and in Australia, in Canada and South America, and in age-hallowed India. And deeply moved, we stand in watching how, on the martyred soil of the Eastern continent, in spite of everything, Jewish willpower is active. Jewish life, as in all forms, thus also in that of our progressive Judaism, endeavors to and will revive. So this is a very moving first paragraph. So despite everything that had happened in the previous years, we are growing. And that was true. These communities were established, I think, shortly before the war, and grew and have been growing since. And then he goes on, and these are, I think, the key 2 paragraphs for us today. So what is the task of Judaism? So Judaism must not stand aside when the great problems of humanity, which are reborn in every new era, struggle in the minds of humanity to gain expression, battle in the societies of humankind to find their way. We are Jews also for the sake of humanity. We should be there, quite especially in this world, quite especially in this world after the war. We have our questions to raise and have to give our answers. We know that history has spoken to us and what we have to say. We fight the Jewish fight for the world of people, the world of God's children, and we fight it with the strength of what is ours. I find it really moving to read these words today. It is hard not to look at this text, not to see through the lens of today's wars. After the Holocaust, during the most difficult time of the post-war Europe, Leo Baeck didn't ask for an exclusionist approach to save and support Jewish people only. He asked us to remember that we are part of humanity and remember that we, progressive Jews, or I would say just Jews in general, are the followers of monotheistic, ethical Judaism and should be advocating for all God's children, for all people. It's not enough to worry about our side, our future, but forget about our neighbors. Also, the title of this address cannot be more relevant for us today. How will our wars change Judaism? What is our task today as progressive Jewish community? What will be the task in the post-war world? So one way of looking at Jewish history is to see it as the story of resilience. And the world was often unfair and cruel to us, but we are still here. And I think this is what Rabbi Dr. Leo Beck tried to express. We are still here. And we can become stronger out of it. So moreover, the best we have in Judaism today came out of the reflection after destructions. Say the Pesach that we will celebrate in just a few weeks' time is the reaction on the chaos and inability to continue the old form of Judaism, which was the temple Judaism, because it was destroyed. And therefore, the conversations we have today came out of the destruction. In the words of Rabbi Beth Nadich, she's a JTS, Jewish Theological Seminary, ordained rabbi based in Boston, who she specializes in chaplaincy support and in trauma-informed care. So she writes, in the wake of the destruction of the temple and tremendous unrest, the rabbis used all the creative tools in their hands to restore order out of the chaos of destruction. So our Seder, whose very name means order, offers us now familiar ritual so that we can step out of times of shattering chaos, even momentarily. It helps us to bring those fragments into an organized and coherent whole. Modern trauma theory eventually recognized that the rabbis knew instinctively where trauma overwhelms, we need to provide sensory grounding and order. So Rabbi Nadich wrote this piece in response to October the 7th. She noticed that the most ordered of all Jewish festivals is Pesach. After the destruction of the temple and the disorder that followed, rabbis changed the form of Pesach from a sacrificial pilgrim festival to the festival of order, stories, and symbolic food. And I think in general, Torah, and especially the Judaism that followed the after the temple Judaism, the rabbinic Judaism, is obsessed with order. What is pure? What's impure? How many days exactly one must isolate when their skin becomes white? When exactly the mother can return to normal life after the birth of a child? So all of these things we can't predict. How can you predict how long will it take you to recover from illness, from a skin disease? It's hard. How long can you? I am surprised that those families with young children can make anything on time at all. And I'm talking from experience as well. And I know that it is hard to be a new parent, especially days after birth of a child. Why do we need to be so obsessive about these days? How many days and order? So the Rabbi Alex refers to this, to the next commentary I'm going to quote already, but I do think it provides some kind of an explanation of why we have the difference between the girls and the boys after birth. So why would a mother be impure for longer after the birth of a girl? So this is what she writes, to Beth Alpert Nachai. Israel was a society in which economic value occurred primarily to sons. In contrast, there is evidence to suggest that girls were sometimes thought as expendable. In times of need, famine, and war, baby girls must suffer hunger and neglect, or even be abandoned and left to die. Therefore, the priestly authors seem to be concerned about this situation and try to avert such tragedies by ensuring the baby girls stay in their mother's protective care for an extended period of time. This not only allows mothers and daughters to bond tightly, but also ensures that the child is nursed and cared for. Thus, this troubling passage can be understood not as a discrimination against women, but as a way to promote God's loving community and to guarantee that women and men, both created in the divine image, are nurtured and protected. So yes, I agree, it is the spin on this story, and probably we don't know what authors meant by it. And from our time, from the society of more equal, from a more equal society's perspective, that passage, the original passage of Torah, seems unfair. However, what I think is happening here is an example of the important task of Judaism, to protect the most vulnerable and to strive for equality, justice, and fairness. This is what I think Rabbi Leo Back called ethical monotheism, the art of being Jewish and caring deeply about the justice and fairness of the world, even if it means that you need to create unequal structure. So in a world filled with uncertainty, wars, and chaos, perhaps it should be the responsibility of Judaism to offer a sense of order. As a Jewish community, we value ethics, equality, freedom, and extend the hand of support to our neighbors, instead of retreating into a closed community that accuses others of being against us. In this world of building walls and weapons, I think it should be the task of progressive Judaism to embrace the power of open doors, building connections to others. It is to give hope that we don't need to wait until the end of the war to be good and ethical people. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may this be God's will.